Welcome to the Candidate Forum for the Butte County Tax Assessor. The League of Women Voters of Butte County is pleased to host this candidate forum to provide an opportunity for the three candidates to present their views on important issues. I am Debra Barger of the League of Women Voters of Butte County and will serve as moderator for this forum. For over 100 years, the League of Women Voters has remained committed to promoting democratic engagement, including nonpartisan candidate forums. Thank you to our audience and to our candidates for joining us for this forum. Voter information about all races and candidates may be found at votersedge.org. Candidate order for opening statements has been randomly determined with the order reversed for closing statements. Candidates will each have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and at the end of the forum, 2 minutes of closing statement. Our timer will do a countdown visible to all. All questions will be answered by each of the candidates with 1 minute allotted per question. By way of background, the assessor's office, the assessor is responsible for locating and identifying all taxable property in the county, establishing taxable value for all property subject to property taxation, completing the assessment role showing the assessed value of all properties, and applying all legal exemptions. The assessor's staff keeps track of ownership changes, maintains maps of parcel boundaries, updates property descriptions and physical characteristics. The assessor does not establish tax rates, calculate tax amounts, or collect taxes. The assessor's minimum salary for Butte County is $132,549. We will now begin with opening statements. Mr. Michael Howard will go first, followed by Mr. Randall Stone, and then Ms. Alyssa Douglas. Mr. Howard, you may begin. You may, I'm sorry, you need to unmute. Thank you.
There we go. First off, I'd like to thank the League for hosting this forum and for all the viewers that are watching it from afar or in the future. This is an important election, and it's always a great idea for the voters to hear from each candidate and where they're coming from. My name is Michael Howard. I live in Paradise with my beautiful wife, Melanie. I've got 32 years of appraisal experience in the public sector, the private sector, and in the corporate world. Amongst those 32 years is 12 years with the Butte County Assessor's Office. I rose from entry-level appraiser in 2007 to supervising the 2 satellite offices in the last, from 2014 through 2020. I've worked nearly every assignment in the Butte County Assessor's Office and every property type. I've worked obviously in all 3 offices. I've strong relationships with the staff there. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business with a concentration in public administration, and I hold 2 appraisal certifications. One issued by the California State Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers. It's the AR license. It is the highest certification issued for residential appraisers. And I hold an advanced certification from the California State Board of Equalization. That is the highest appraisal certification issued by the SBE. And that's my opening statement.
Thank you. Mr. Randall Stone next, if you'll unmute, please.
Yes, good evening. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters Butte County for putting on this forum. You know, my wife was a board member of the League of Women Voters in Butte County for over 10 years. And this is precisely the kind of thing that we need in a neutral environment where we're not, throttling each other over issues. So kudos to the League of Women Voters for, again, setting us straight on how to respond in political environments. I'm Randall Stone. I have been endorsed for this county assessor seat by just about everybody that's endorsing that's a representative, a senior representative of a taxing entity in Butte County. So by names, that's the chair of the Butte County Board of Supervisors, Bill Connolly, the chair of Chico Unified School District, Kathy Kaiser. Dr. Kathy Kaiser has also endorsed the campaign. And they do this for one reason. We are responsible for $25.2 billion in property assessments and over $500 million in property tax revenue. So when we're not assessing property values and we're not keeping up with property values, that represents a significant revenue drop to our taxing entities. So by way of background, most of these things you can find out from my website at electstone.com. But in terms of history, I have 20 years as a financial planner. I've owned and operated my own financial planning firm for about that 20 years. And for about that amount of time, I also ran, owned and operated and supervised agents in a real estate brokerage here in California. I also am a developer of affordable housing communities, served as mayor and council member for the last 8 years, going back 8 of the last 10 years on the Chico City Council. So I know how important property taxes are, and I know how important it is to get this right. Again, I'm a professor at California State University, Chico. I teach real estate finance and investments. And with that, I'll hand it back to the group. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alyssa Douglas, please, if you'll unmute.
Hi, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak about my campaign. Thank you to all the viewers for being here. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Huntington Beach, but my family, like a lot of other folks, began investing in Butte County in the 1960s. So this area, specifically Oroville, has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I live here in Oroville with my husband, Ken, who is a lifelong resident of the county. And I have 2 children who I raised here in Oroville who went to Butte County schools. I moved to the North State in 1987 to attend UC Davis. I had the honor of serving in the United States Air Force and was stationed at Travis Air Force Base before moving on to purchase a small business in Fairfield. I was self-employed for 9 years before moving to Oroville to be closer to family. My career with the Butte County Assessor's Office began in 2004. I'm an advanced certified property tax appraiser, and for the past 11 years, I've been valuing commercial and industrial properties for the county. For the past 7 years, I've been in the managerial role of supervising appraiser responsible for the training and oversight of staff. I'm the only candidate who's currently working in the assessor's office, and I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of both the current assessor, Diane Brown, as well as the assistant assessor, Blake Bailey. And that's my background. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question, the stated mission of the assessor's office is to create equitable, timely, and accurate property tax assessments to fund public services. As a responsible elected public official, how would you ensure that these are not just words on a web page? Mr. Stone, please.
Again, this is 30 seconds, 1 minute.
1 minute responses
Okay,
to questions.
excellent. Great question. I appreciate you asking it. Look, what we're not doing now, and I appreciate the discussion about the history of the office. For the last 10 years, this assessor's office has not audited, it has not met its large business audits. So the State Board of Equalization mandates that the assessor's office audits what businesses say their property holdings are. And we haven't done that in over 10 years. So if you think about how much in property taxes those we're losing in this county, it's a tremendous impact in the millions of dollars of assessed value in Butte County. So first and foremost, I would hire the auditors. And for the last 10 years, the assessor's office has been claiming that there haven't been staff available. They haven't been able to staff these positions. Look, I teach at the College of Business in the finance office, and we can get accounting graduates that will fix this problem in a few years. This is something that the office has been struggling with for over 10 years.
Ms. Douglas, please. Unmute, please.
Sorry. I think that training is the key to fair and accurate assessments. We've had tremendous turnover in the office. Since 2020, we've had a 42% turnover in staff. To address this, our current assessor, Diane Brown, did put in a special training room, and I was put in charge of developing a training program to train the new staff. We've got 7 new appraisers that were hired recently who have been through this training program. 3 of them have 10 months on the job and 4 of them have 21 months on the job, but we've managed to get their training to a level where they're performing at the speed and accuracy of seasoned appraisers. The 3 newest appraisers have gone to 2 SBE courses in that period of time in 10 months, and the other 4 have been to 4 State Board of Equalization training classes. One of them, advanced income capitalization, to get them on track to be advanced certified appraisers within 3 years.
Mr. Howard, if you'll unmute, please.
In response to the question, what you baked into that question was part of the mission statement of the assessor's office. The rest of the mission statement and the mandate by the state of California is to locate, identify, and value taxable property. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where it's not just words on a website. That's the action that is taken for fair and equitable taxation. To say that the taxpayers aren't treated fairly is a gross misstatement. But Alyssa is dead on in that training is absolutely paramount to what needs to change in the assessor's office. Because as she noted, 42% turnover in a couple of years, that's a lot of turnover for a department of 40 plus people. And so ultimately what my goal is to kind of change the way the work flows, to reconfigure the staff, and to make a far more robust training program that is not something that just happens at the beginning of somebody's tenure, but that is ongoing throughout their entire career.
The Butte County Tax Assessor is required to supervise county staff. Please explain your experience in supervising public employees. Ms. Douglas. Unmute and then thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I have been the supervisor of the Oroville office for the past 7 years. This is the main office. We have 2 satellite offices. The Paradise office has a lead appraiser who oversees 3 people. The Chico office has a lead appraiser who oversees 5 people, and the Oroville office has a lead appraiser that oversees 7 people. I've been supervising the main office. When the campfire occurred, we had the supervisor of the Paradise office retired at that same time. I, at that point, was also supervising the 3 employees out of the Paradise office, as well as took on a second assignment from an employee who left.
Says Mr. Howard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unmute, please, Mr. Howard.
Okay. Supervisory experience. I was the supervisor of the Paradise office when there were 4 staff members there, 3 appraisers and 1 clerical support staff. After 2.5, 3 years there, I was reassigned to the position of supervisor of the Chico office. And the supervisor of those satellite offices is different than the supervisor in the Oroville office, because the supervisor in the satellite offices has to supervise all of the activities within those offices, where a supervisor in Oroville is basically supervising the team of appraisers. Where I was as supervisor in Oroville and in Paradise and Chico, I was supervising the day-to-day operations of those offices, which are basically much smaller versions of the entire Oroville office, the headquarters.
Mr. Stone, unmute, please.
Thank you. I'm the chair of the Assessment Appeals Board, which is the oversight body for the assessor's office as appellants, taxpayers bring their grievances about their property tax values before the assessor's office. So I mitigate, literally arbitrate and judge between taxpayers and the Assessment Appeals Board, or excuse me, the assessor's office. So as in a supervisory role, I literally navigate between these two parties, and sometimes that's a pretty challenging task. The assessor's office will get very heated with taxpayers, and taxpayers are understandably fairly concerned. I've managed 250 people on a sales room floor. I've managed 3 real estate agents, and I've managed public employees within the city and county of Butte as a council member and mayor within the city, especially the most expensive, most high-skilled employees within those organizations.
Given the data-intensive nature of the assessor's office, what technological opportunities might you implement to increase your office's efficiency and effectiveness? Mr. Howard, please unmute.
That is a very critical question, and that is where the assessor's office is largely lacking. The technology that is currently employed by the assessor's office is Microsoft Excel, which dates back a long, long ways. There are technological tools out there for more mass appraisal, more relative to a meaningful scope of work per assignments. I did play the primary role in the development of the assessor's office GIS, which was a layered data set over the county's GIS system. That is still in use today to some extent, although I don't think it's its understanding is being disseminated in the office, which is unfortunate. But there's a lot of changes that can be used: reconfiguring the staff, redefining scope of work, and relying more heavily on technology as opposed to brute force and a lot of time and effort by the staff.
Mr. Stone, please unmute.
Well, this is an area where we all agree. The assessor's office is woefully inadequately technologically advanced. And yes, using Excel and trying to pass that off as working with large businesses that have much more sophisticated systems. We need a technological upgrade. The most recent upgrade that they had was a $5,000 grant received to fund the GIS system. And that's just nowhere near the level of improvement. This is a staff that's been working on this for 10 years, and we can do much better. We can do much better than we're doing now. I would seek considerable grants, just as my father, the county assessor in Santa Clara County, did 28 years ago when he was first elected. We have outstanding technological resources right here in our community, and yet we can't. The assessor's office now is not communicating with those businesses to work directly with them to improve the office. This is the question between whether we want to stay where we've been going in the last 10 years and not addressing the state mandates and audits, or whether we want to go a different direction, and we can do better.
Ms. Douglas, if you will unmute, please.
Yes, thank you. So our staffing issues have continued to be a problem, and more of a problem than our appraisal staff is our clerical staff. And that's where all of our appraisals start, is first looking at the deed and finding out what's a reappraisable event. And there is a company that we've met with called Just Appraise. And what they do is they can actually take the workload of what 2 people can do in 2 days, they can have 1 person do in a couple hours. It will reduce the workload of 1.3 full-time employees and get that process moving much faster. We have looked into direct enrollment and utilizing the Megabyte. Megabyte is our property tax software that we have, and they have a direct enrollment module that we're looking into putting into use. We have looked at the more expensive programs, but what we've found in talking to other counties is that the data is just not really as accurate as we would like it to be. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Why are you actually running for the assessor position? Mr. Stone?
Well, great question. I ran for this position in 2018. This is what I've been doing my entire life, real estate and finance. My father is the county assessor, as I mentioned, for the last 28 years. His office is regarded as one of the best run assessor's office in the state of California. He is a key advisor and has endorsed the campaign. And look, I've got a particular talent in this area. It's been proven. The methods are methods that other counties have been using, including my father's office have been using. I mean, imagine, we don't even use direct enrollment in this county. It's unbelievable that we would be as inefficient as we are. So I'm running to improve the office. I'm running because I know how important those tax revenues and tax rules are to the taxing agencies. Being a mayor and a council member in the past, I know when we don't know what those property tax revenues are going to be, it puts a kink in the entire budgetary system. And so I would work with stakeholders in order to keep them apprised of what the tax roll looks like so that they can better prepare for their budgets throughout the fiscal year.
Ms. Douglas, if you'll unmute, please.
Having been a business owner, and currently my husband is also self-employed, and knowing what it's like to interact with government agencies, that's something that I am always aware of when I'm interacting with people at the counter. And my goal is to serve the people of this community as I have for the past 18 years and continue to make sure that the appraisals are fair, equitable, and impartial. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the seconds. So yes, I'm here to continue to do what I know and what I do best. I'm here for the taxpayers of the county.
Mr. Howard, if you'll unmute, please.
And the reason I'm running for assessor is because I spent 12 years in the department. And for those 12 years, I called that department home, and I called the employees that work there with me, my coworkers, my work family. But you know, to see the technology and to see the tools that are available on the outside, which I have a front row seat to because I am in private practice currently, and again have been for many years or various times. It pains me to see the struggles and the burden that gets put on the assessor's office staff, and somebody needs to modernize that office, and the market's getting ready to change, and somebody needs to be at the helm that has seen it before. And I've seen it 3 or 4 times. I've seen the market correct, and somebody's going to have to be running that department that's ready to be react to it, to be proactive, and to be able to react to what's going on around us.
What do you think will be the most important issues that the assessor faces, and how would you propose to address them? Ms. Douglas, please unmute.
Well, right now we're in the middle of a class comp study, class compensation to address the low wages to the county staff. This isn't a problem just in the assessor's office. This is all departments that are being affected by the turnover due to the low wages. We're going to have to deal with what the outcome will be if that class comp study does not result in adequate pay for the employees, because then we could see continued losses of staff. So it's really going to be important to make sure that we have technology put in place that can take care of some of that work and make sure that services aren't stopped as a result.
Mr. Howard, if you'll unmute, please.
Yeah, the biggest challenges that are coming for the next assessor are, as I had mentioned previously, the changes in market conditions that are on the horizon. And the reason that that's going to be exceptionally challenging is, as Alyssa had mentioned, the virtual hemorrhaging of staff that department has been experiencing for years and years. Working at the Butte County Assessor's Office has to be a rewarding career choice. And for 42% of the staff since 2020, it has not been. The staff needs to be competent and well educated, and that's got to come from the top down. That's a decision that has to start at the assessor's desk and work its way down. There has to be top down training. And I'm prepared to implement that and to make sure that it sticks, because we're going to run into a serious real estate market problem in the next 4 years.
Mr. Stone.
Great question. And unquestionably, unequivocally, the State Board of Equalization has said the #1 issue for this office is not meeting the audits of their large businesses. And let me again explain what this means. This means that large businesses submit property tax statements on their honor, and the assessor's office has 4 years to audit those businesses. If they don't, the revenue's gone. It's gone forever. The State Board of Equalization continues to castigate this office for not meeting their large business audits. So money just goes away. And if you realize that once the statute of limitations is only 4 years, that's a tremendous amount of revenue that all of our taxing entities in Butte County are not receiving. When we're talking unsophisticated discussions about we're going to shift staff around and maybe try to curb the turnover, we need to hire the auditors so that we aren't losing millions and millions of dollars in property assessments. Yes, the staffing turnover is an issue. We can help get these audit employees through my relationships with the university, but working with those stakeholders and letting them know that you've got a handle on that staffing issue and that you've got a handle on what's happening with these audits is most important, and I am going to do that.
What makes you a competent and successful leader? Mr. Howard.
In my 32 years experience in the appraisal field, I have taken part in the training and the supervision of dozens of staff members in the private sector and in the assessor's office itself. Here's an interesting statistic that I looked up the other day. While the assessor's office turnover rate, as Alyssa had said, since 2020 is 42%, and there have been over 40 new appraisers come and gone since 2007. Of the 14 staff members that I supervised, only one of them resigned their position while they were on my staff. And that person resigned because of personal issues that they had at home. I never had another appraiser want to leave my team. That speaks to my level of leadership.
Mr. Stone, please unmute.
Yeah, leadership is doing the tough, making the tough decisions when it's not popular and not necessarily clear what those outcomes are. I think in government we're too scared to try new things, and so what it takes, especially with an elected leader, is to take some risks. And what we haven't been doing over the last 10 years is taking any of those risks, changing the software, changing the design. We're talking about 42% turnover of employees. This is not working, and we can do better. So knowing that right off the bat is the hallmark of a very good leader. But let's also realize, knowing what's wrong with the office and what you're telling and reporting to your state auditors. The Board of Equalization gets this audit every 5 years, and the assessor's office answers those things. They continue to mention that these are the problems, and yes, we acknowledge and we need to fix these things, but leadership is taking action and not doing the same old thing with failed results. So I'll fix that. We can do much better, and I have the talent and history and experience, as well as the backing to get that done.
Ms. Douglas, please unmute.
I feel that the key to being a good leader is listening. I think that you need to listen to your staff. In order to know what changes need to be made, you have to be an active participant within the organization. Otherwise, you have no idea what needs to be changed. Currently, my new employees, all young, straight out of school, they are so enthusiastic about the job and they really want to give back to the community. And I think that that has brought a new blood and new life into the office. And that's where, again, we have to listen to everybody. There isn't anybody in the office that doesn't have something to bring to the table. Thank you.
What should be the top 3 strategic goals for the assessor's office over the next 2 years? Mr. Stone, please unmute.
Yeah, no question. Get the auditors hired, audit the large businesses, treat taxpayers fairly. We're not doing that when we are leaving large businesses and not taking them at their honor and not auditing what those property values are. Well, at the same time, I mean, as a chair of the Assessment Appeals Board, I have a front row seat as the oversight body between scared taxpayers, right? They come in, these are individuals with homes and they're scared in this process. And I've made it a point to calm them and comfort them while the assessor's office is ignoring the audits on one side and browbeating staff and taxpayers. First and foremost, treating taxpayers fairly, getting those auditors hired and auditing those large businesses so we aren't losing revenue, and implementing a customer service monitoring program. What gets measured gets done, and we are falling short of our customer service needs now. I'll leave it at that.
Ms. Douglas, unmute.
Again, the number one thing we need to take care of is training. And that's so important because of the fact that if you don't have properly trained staff, then you're not able to properly serve the community. Secondarily, yes, customer service is very important. I do feel that we have a very good history in regards to that. We've had, after this campfire situation, the taxpayer advocates, they actually wrote a glowing review of our office and for how things were handled in that time period. And automation, we need to start looking into ways to streamline processes through cost-effective technology. So those would be the 3 top things: technology, training, and customer service.
Mr. Howard, please unmute.
Yeah, the 3 critical issues that need to be addressed, obviously in agreement with Alyssa and Randall, is the citizens of Butte County, the taxpayers, their needs need to be met, and for Randall to say that there's a customer service issue with the department, historically that is grossly untrue, in that roughly 98% of appeals that are filed are resolved to the taxpayers' satisfaction before they ever get before the Assessment Appeals Board. The second thing is, as Alyssa said, it's training. The staff has got to be brought up to speed, and they need to be trained on the third thing, which is the implementation of greater technology and the use to its full extent, which is completely and totally absent in the department at this point in time.
What, in your view, are the most important responsibilities of the Butte County Assessor's Office? Ms. Douglas.
Well, it's fair and accurate assessments. The property tax revenue that's generated funds all of our public safety and special districts. And so it's important that those assessments are done and they're done fairly so that both the taxpayer is paying their fair share and the services are being funded to that in the way that they need to be funded. So it's everybody paying their fair share, fair and accurate assessments.
Mr. Howard, please unmute.
Yeah, the most important responsibility that falls on the assessor and therefore the assessor's office is the creation of a tax roll that is fair and equitable. Yeah, a lot of the public doesn't understand that the assessor and the tax collector are two entirely different entities. The assessor's office creates the tax roll. The tax roll generates tax bills, and the checks go to the tax collector, the auditor. Yeah, the generation of a fair and accurate tax roll is it's not only the state mandated job of the assessor, but it is absolutely the most the greatest responsibility of the assessor. Managing the department itself is also hypercritical. And I think that in the past, because of all of the challenges, the campfire, the COVID, the market crashes, that department has been hard to run. I don't hold anybody, I'm not deriding past administrations because they haven't had a lot of good options on the table. But we need to move past all these crises and get to business.
Mr. Stone, please unmute.
Yes, well, obviously the assessor's office has a state mandate from the Board of Equalization to audit and appraise all. We're familiar with the task and the responsibility. But the reason why that's so important is that the role needs to be on time, and we have had a lot of disasters and crises in this county, but we've had these systemic problems for well over 10 years. In this assessor's office. We haven't been able to staff this. According to the BOE's own survey and audit reports, this has been an ongoing problem long before the campfire. These are long-standing staff members advocating for mild changes to design, and that's just not the direction that we need to go in. But also, the assessor's office is not just managing that staff. You know, they're responsible for that role to keep all of the stakeholders in the county apprised of what's going on, and I will do that, meeting with the Realtors Association for Prop 19 relief. You know, we just, the state of California legislates and then accepts and expects the assessor's office to respond in kind. If you aren't paying attention to what's happening in Sacramento, this county doesn't have a voice, and we don't have the ability to navigate that quite as extensively, and I can do that.
What skills do you believe that you have that make you the best candidate? Mr. Howard.
Well, again, as I mentioned in my opening statement, 12 years in the department is plenty long enough to understand, you know, which way the wind blows there. 12 years in the department, 20 years in private practice, you know, has taught me valuable lessons on, you know, how a business or an organization needs to be run. My bachelor's degree in business with a concentration in public administration, that's a degree that is designed exactly for this sort of position. You know, when you consider that the Butte County Assessor's Office is there to locate, identify, and value properties, there's the appraisal side. And the department head is meant to run the organization. You got somebody with 32 years experience in appraisal and a bachelor's degree essentially in public administration. I don't know how you could be more qualified for this position than I am.
Mr. Stone.
Great question. Yes, I have a master's degree in public administration with distinction from California State University, Chico. I teach real estate finance as a professor in the College of Business. I've got a 20-year real estate career as a developer, as an investor, as a consultant, and as well as planning and public sector environment planning budgets and working and understanding how those budgets are impacted by the property assessment role. The solutions that I'm talking about for this office are management solutions that I have implemented in the private sector. And these are solutions that uniformly are being said that we need. Prior to tonight, we haven't heard from other candidates talking about the State Board of Equalization's mandated audits and how we haven't been meeting them. And so, my particular skill is in fixing this problem and working with stakeholders at all levels of government, which I've been doing my entire professional career.
Ms. Douglas.
I didn't really want to take my time to address this point, but we do, our SBE survey of our office, we had a 98.8% rating, positive rating by the State Board of Equalization in 2013. We're currently in the midst of another survey right now. As far as the audits, we did bring back as extra help our retired former supervising auditor appraiser. As far as to work on those mandates audits. As far as the skills needed, I have 18 years of experience within the office. I am aware of I have up-to-date knowledge of the complex regulations that are involved with property tax assessment. I am up to date on Prop 19, which is going to have a lot needs to be done to put that into place and make sure it's done sorry, stop. Thank you.
You can finish your sentence. Okay. Final question. Although California voters rejected the split roll initiative Prop 15 in 2020, the League of Women Voters of California remains a proponent of this effort. Prop 15, among other things, would have required that commercial property be assessed every 3 years at market value. Understanding that the assessor's office does not make or suggest policy, how would you proceed with implementing a split roll initiative should it pass? Mr. Stone.
Well, it's a great question, and it's an interesting one because I supported the split roll and my father did not. So we were at political odds statewide over this issue. What I do share in that perspective is that the state legislature needs to provide additional funding for assessor's office throughout the state to implement a split roll. So it's not, in order to implement it, it is just simply not possible. And this was an argument that the California Assessors Association waged against Prop 15 because it just wasn't something that could be turned around as quickly as the proposition would have mandated. So it would take additional grants and resources from the state legislature, and they know that, and they're prepared to fund that, I believe. This is not a cry from Butte County. All 58 assessors are sharing that perspective. I don't know of a single one. In fact, I was the only one in real estate that was pushing on that end, on the public sector end, for a split roll.
Ms. Douglas.
Right. So I think that all the assessors of the 58 counties were in agreement that, as Randall said, it's not possible to have a split roll with the staffing that we currently have. It would be impossible. Even Prop 19, it's very difficult to put in place what the state is asking us to do. And right now, I'm the only person in the office who is trained to do commercial industrial appraisal. And because of the time that it takes to get staffing to the point where they're able to do commercial appraisal, with the turnover that we have, and it's not just our office, ever since pension reform, it's all county assessor offices that's having problems with keeping employees. So it's just not possible to implement a split roll.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, I think the question was how would, if the California voters implemented or voted in the split roll, how would I as the assessor implement their wishes? The first thing I would have to do is go to the Butte County Board of Supervisors and say, I need 5 more appraisers, and I can't have 5 entry-level appraisers, because if every commercial property or or depending on the flavor of the split roll that ultimately gets passed, it might be all properties without a homeowner's exemption, or something of the sort. If every one of those properties in Butte County has to be appraised every 3 years, 5 skilled appraisers are going to have to be on that job 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. The unintended consequences of a split roll would be nearly catastrophic, and that's why there is no support for it in assessors' offices across this state.
Thank you. We will now proceed with closing statements, beginning with Ms. Douglas. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having this forum and giving us all the opportunity to speak about our campaigns. I would like to say that I am not pursuing this position with any sort of political motivation. I'm doing this because I care about the office and I care about the taxpayers of the county. I started in the office 18 years ago, and that's where I've been. I haven't been pursuing other interests. I've been there serving the public. I was there for the June lightning fires. I was there for the wall fire. I was there for the Camp Fire and the North Complex fire. I was there during the recession, reducing values in Prop 8. And I was there in the emergency operations centers helping people who were affected by the calamities. And so I don't know how much time I have left.
1 minute left.
Okay. So I believe that my 18 years of experience have me best prepared to take care of the taxpayers of the county and your best interests. Thank you, and I would appreciate your support and your vote on June 7th.
Mr. Stone.
Yes, again, thank you all for being here. Those of us in the cheap seats very much appreciate those in the expensive seats spending your time here and your evening watching this program. It's important that you get the lowdown on what we stand for. And I think we can safely say that all 3 of us are not seeking a political office for political gain. We all have concrete ideas on how this office can be improved. You know, some are more sophisticated than others. We have two staff members that have been in the office for a number of years, some coming in and out, and you have something fresh and new. What we know is the Board of Equalization for at least the last 10 years has told us that we're not meeting our audit targets. That has a deleterious impact to all of the taxing entities, and I can fix that with my relationships at the university and the College of Business within a few years. We also need to treat taxpayers fairly. By hitting those big business audits as we're required to by the Board of Equalization, but also by implementing a customer service program and treating taxpayers fairly and more respectfully. You know, I've got that front row seat as the chair of the oversight body, the Assessment Appeals Board, and we had an incident where the assessor's office had sent out a letter to victims of the disaster telling them that they didn't have a Fourth Amendment right to appeal their disaster values. And it took weeks before the assessor's office was willing to accept the county council's solution to write a letter retracting that. You know, I understand that there's staffing issues and we can fix those. And yes, there's staffing issues all over the state of California, but we seem to have the most acute problem and the one that's hitting us the most substantially, and I can fix that. I'll implement a problem to measure customer service and to improve it on a consistent basis. I'm the only person here that has solutions that will bring tax revenue, additional tax revenue without raising taxes for all of our taxing jurisdictions and for our families. Thank you very much. I hope you'll vote for me, and you can find out more information on my website at electstone.com. Thank you.
Mr. Howard, please.
Yeah, again, as I said in the open, I'd like to thank the league and everybody that's taking an interest in this. This is a more important election than your typical citizen of Butte County might think. But ultimately, here's my point, is that if experience in an assessor's office is a prerequisite to being the assessor, and it most certainly should be, there are two viable candidates on the ballot this year. And that's nothing but good for the citizens of Butte County. I worked with Alyssa for a lot of years, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. We were promoted to senior appraiser at roughly the same time. We were promoted to principal at the same time. We were promoted to supervisor on the same day. And so, you know, our experience in the department is fairly similar. She's got a couple more years than me, but you know, we rose through the ranks in much the same way. She owned a business outside of the assessor's office. I spent 20 years in the appraisal field outside the business, the assessor's office. Similar, but not the same. She supervised a team of appraisers in Oroville. I supervised the 2 satellite offices in the assessor's office. Again, similar experience, but not the same. You know, but what has to be critically understood here is that somebody without experience in the assessment environment, within the office itself, really, I'm not saying this to deride Randall, but really doesn't have any business aspiring to running a department within which he has absolutely no experience.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Butte County, I want to offer my deep appreciation for the candidates for running and for participating in this forum. To our audience, please let others know that a recording of this forum will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Butte County website. Also, please vote in the June 7th election. Be sure to check out votersedge.com for a complete voter's guide and an important resource for voters. Thank you so much. League of Women Voters of Butte County.org and votersedge.org. Thank you.